Hey there, Pursuing Freedom friends and community. Thanks for tuning in today. I am very excited today to introduce you to my friend Harley Green, who I met through his wife Adrian, who's a friend and a colleague of mine. And these guys have such a fascinating story that I'm actually having both of them join us on the podcast to share different components of the successful life and fulfilling life that they've designed for themselves. And we talk about the motto of pursuing freedom is that the goal is to build a life you don't need a vacation from. And Harley and Adrian are doing that to the nth degree. And he can share more about the story, but I was super inspired to have them on the show for multiple reasons. Number one, they're currently living a location independent life with their three young children, living extended periods of time in different countries all over the world, from Colombia to Mexico to Japan to the Philippines and everywhere in between. And Adrian had a very successful real estate business that they learned to scale successfully by outsourcing to virtual assistants, which led them to developing their own virtual assistant outsourcing company called WorkerGenix, which is Harley's baby and something we're going to dig our teeth into today, which is this concept that we talk a lot about, which is leverage in our business and how to free ourselves up to truly enjoy the very freedom and flexibility we were seeking when we became self-employed, rather than simply being a slave to our success. And the only way to do that is to get out of our own way and enlist the help of others. And so I'm super fascinated to hear how we can specialize in looking at VAs for real estate professionals and how they did it successfully here in the States and how it led them to this life of real estate investing, entrepreneurship, international travel, and simply living their life by design. So with no further ado, Harley, I would love if you could share your backstory, introduce yourself, and lead us through the journey to getting you where you are now, which is living wherever you feel like, running a VA staffing company, et cetera, et cetera. We've only got a little bit of time, but there's a lot to jam in. So I'm so glad you're here to share your story with us.
Thank you, Aaron. I love sharing our story. Hopefully, it can be inspiring to other people to see what's possible. My personal background, it was starting out in computer engineering. I was a software architect for about 15 years in the defense industry. We started dabbling in real estate investing by just renting out our basement, kind of got our feet wet doing that. Had great experience, started learning more about all the benefits of real estate investing, and then started buying some, turnkey rent-ready condos near where we lived, self-managing all of those. And that kind of grew and got to the point where we were doing so many deals and we felt we were just missing out on some opportunities due to not having the best real estate agent service. And so at that time, my wife Adrian decided to get her own license, become a licensed real estate agent so she could help us with our deals. Well, she really got passionate about that. And that business grew to be able to service lots of other clients as well. And then we got to that point of overwhelm that so many of us feel as entrepreneurs, where you're doing everything in your business, things are going well, and yet you're still like up late at night and you're like, this is not what I signed up for. I did not sign up to be up late at night writing newsletters or managing my social media or doing compliance paperwork, doing the contract to close process. And so we learned about outsourcing to virtual assistants. Now, we had a lot of struggles getting started doing that. As I'm sure many people who have tried VAs have similar experience, where you maybe think, I need a part-time person who can just help with the bookkeeping or just do the newsletter. Well, when you hire someone part-time, a lot of times you run into the issue that they've got one foot out the door looking for full-time work. And so just after 2 to 3 months, you've invested all this time and you've gotten them all trained up, they leave. And so we've kind of had those experiences. We also just had struggles of like, what kind of questions do you ask someone who's in a different country to make sure they're well qualified? Does the college degree mean the same thing there as it means here? How do you grade someone's ability to do certain tasks when they're not physically with you? And so those are all challenges we kind of learned to overcome. And it got to the point where in 2020 with COVID, we relocated our family from where we were living in Northern Virginia to Chattanooga, Tennessee. We were looking for a place that had better cost of living, better opportunity for real estate investing, and just great environment for raising the kids. And Chattanooga just checked all those boxes perfectly for us. As many of you guys know that are doing real estate, when you move, it's kind of like starting from scratch again, because so much of being a real estate agent is your network. And going to an area where like we knew one person was going to be a huge challenge for getting the real estate agent business kickstarted. Well, we really zeroed in and focused on what do we know best and what are we doing here? Well, we're investing in real estate. And so the real estate agent business focused on helping other real estate investors do the same thing that we were doing, whether it's handling the, getting a good property manager in place, getting them all the service providers they need and that are vetted because we're using them personally as well, and making it a simple process so the people who are out of state looking for better investment markets than where they might live, like, in very high cost of living areas that aren't having good cash flow, they could then turn and buy properties in Chattanooga with us and get the great returns and cash flow they wanted. So to do that successfully, we understood in order to make the money that we want to make in the business and do the number of deals that need to happen, we've got to get out of our own way, like you said. And to do that, we leveraged the virtual assistants. And they did everything from operations director to client services to marketing to contract to close, so that the business was able to focus on doing just the things that are the highest dollar value. And that allowed Adrian's business to grow to being the point where she had so many leads coming in that she had to bring on other agents. And so that turned into a team. And so in that team, everything on the back end was all done with our virtual assistants. So we got really good at how to manage them, how to keep track of what they're doing and tasking them, making really clear procedures, KPIs, all the things you need to do to run a business, but with virtual assistants. So it was much more cost effective. And the result of this was in October of 23, we decided, hey, we want to do something different. We're really wanting to travel, have this travel lifestyle. And what is like holding us back? Well, it's like running this real estate team. So we decided, let's see if we can sell it. Well, we got an independent third-party evaluation service came in, and we got a really high valuation compared to a lot of other similar real estate teams because of using the virtual assistants in the business. That made it so Adrian's role as the lead agent was a lot less critical. And so the cost that someone would have to pay an operator to replace her was much lower because she wasn't doing all the things that most real estate team leads do in a business. Similarly, all the other administrative expenses that people typically have were a lot less because we were able to use our virtual assistants for everything. And that gave us multiple times that cost savings as value increase in the business. So we got every dollar saved by having a virtual assistant is worth 2 to 3 to 5 on the valuation of the business. After successfully selling that, that gave us the freedom to live internationally. So we pulled our kids out of school. We started homeschooling in January to kind of get our feet wet and used to doing that. And then we kind of decided that the first place we're going to go is Colombia. And so we've been in Colombia since beginning of May, and we just are loving it here. It's amazing to be someplace where we can explore new cultures, we can learn new languages, see different parts of the world, and still run our staffing agency, still manage all of our real estate investments back in the States, and share our story with others.
I love it. So I have so many questions. Okay. First of all, you covered something in regards to when you sold your business and how it was interesting to discover that Adrian as the lead was less critical because of the systems in place. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about how a truly successful business is based on a system that runs the business and then people to run the systems. And I know in my own experience of scaling my business that once I started to learn how to have the confidence to fire myself from things that don't excite me, don't energize me, I'm maybe not even really good at, only then on the other side of making those transitions and releasing the grip of things that don't really serve me to be operating in, did I find that I wasn't nearly as important as I thought I was. And also that I wasn't nearly as good at certain things as other people can be. And I think it's so important to cover this because so many listeners are solopreneurs, and in the journey of trying to not only achieve consistency in your business and your income, which looks like sales and marketing and business development and relationship development, but then you also have to have a really amazing customer service experience with dates and deadlines and details and making sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. And then you have to have follow up and follow through. And also, by the way, don't forget to track your expenses for your accounting and your tax planning. And it's so much. And I think that because we are eager to succeed and to please, we try to force ourselves to be great at all these things that aren't necessarily our zone of genius. And it's only when you go to the other side where you find somebody that loves the things that you don't love, do you realize that you weren't really that successful in trying to be all the things all the time and be good at everything. It's just simply not possible. So I know in my own experience from scaling a business that I surrounded myself with these rock stars that were great at things that I found to be dreadful. And by bringing our gifts together, we created this superhuman, and that I was highly ineffective trying to do it all myself, which is why I kept on burning out and riding that roller coaster of broke to burnout. So, talk us through a little bit, logistically speaking. You mentioned that you were able to use virtual assistants for everything from your ops director to marketing, contract to close, client care. Talk us through the unfolding of this, because even the contract to close piece, it feels almost overwhelming to imagine outsourcing that, because I think especially if you're a top producer that's listening that's experienced some burnout, you might be thinking, well, how am I going to have the time to train somebody on how I want contract to close to go? To what extent can you find virtual assistants that are experienced in the United States real estate processing responsibilities if they've gone to college in a different country, they're trained in different activities? Like, there's a lot that you covered there that feels pretty high level. So
Mhm.
what does that process look like? I mean, are we hiring people entry level and it's our responsibility to train them up? Or are we hiring people that have experience working for real estate professionals in the US? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so for us, the journey looked like starting small, just getting an executive assistant. And you made a really good point about people feeling like I don't have time to train someone. Well, the reason people don't have time to train someone is because they're not outsourcing yet. And if you apply what we like to call use in our business getting started, the 80-20 rule, people are probably familiar with the Pareto principle. If you can just spend 20% of the time a typical task takes defining it and getting your assistant the resources they need to execute it, and then reviewing the output and giving feedback, let them handle the other 80%, and just say that's like a 100-minute task that's on a weekly basis. In week one, you've already saved yourself 80 minutes. In week two, they've mostly figured it out. Maybe you only need like 10 minutes of review. So now you're saving yourself 90 minutes. In week three, they've got it. They're giving you 100 minutes. So now you got 100 minutes back that you didn't have before in just 3 weeks. So the reason people don't have time to train someone is because they don't have people working for them that can handle these things. One thing that we have found has been really effective is not really worrying about someone having years and years of experience with doing the exact job that you want. We want to look at more of the soft skills. Is this person an eager learner? Are they capable to solve problems and willing to grow their skills? And then we can guide them exactly how we want them to do things. And we found that's actually more successful than having someone who's like, hey, I've been on this real estate team for 10 years doing their operations, and they come in and try to do it all that way. That may not work in your business. We want them to be moldable and to execute how things we want. As far as like systems go to help enable that, use the executive assistant, that first hire, to help create those systems. So the next time you're doing a task, just make a video recording. You can use Zoom, you can hop in there and just record your screen, talk through how you do it. And then the great thing is, like, this tool didn't exist when we were starting out, but using tools like ChatGPT and other AI tools, the virtual assistant can leverage to make the process go a lot faster. So then they can automatically transcribe the video. They can take that transcription and throw it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can do the bulk of the work, creating a systemized documented procedure that the assistant can then go and clean up while they're watching that video, so that there's less errors that can happen because they're just following that procedure. And it's more scalable because as you grow and you need more people, you can move that executive assistant up into an operations director and then hire more assistants underneath them.
Awesome. I love what you said about hiring people that are moldable, because I too found that to be true in my experience, where I hired some trained pilots per my coach's advice, is like, get a trained pilot and just let them run. And I found some clunkiness there, because maybe they have a skill set, but they are not organized, or they're knowledgeable, but not necessarily conscientious. And I found that if we can hire to the values of work ethic and going above and beyond and being curious and eager to learn and eager to improve the system that they're walking into, then you can train those skills that are certainly trainable. I mean, if we can do it and we're not doing it as well as we think we can do it, then what if somebody else could do it with eager enthusiasm and do it better than we have been able to do it alone? And also the fact that you said you don't have time because you don't have support. And the fact of the matter is that the right fit people with that conscientious work, good work ethic attitude, they come in and there's certain things that they can very quickly take off your plate to free you up so that you can just come up for a breath of air and feel the relief of seeing things get executed without your input. You also mentioned something in regards to KPIs. So, first of all, for any listeners that don't know what a KPI is, can we talk through that? And then how did you guys determine what yours were in such a way that you could measure progress with these virtual assistants?
Yeah, so with the KPIs, key performance indicators. So these are the metrics that we use to measure success in our businesses. So we just kind of start at the high level goal of like, what is the business supposed to do for us? And for most people, it's provide for their family financially. Second goals could be, client satisfaction. Other goals could be number of deals, client growth, subscription growth. So those are kind of like the high level KPIs. And then what we want to do is break those down into each specific role and see how that specific role's responsibilities are that feed into the higher level goals, and map KPIs for that as well. And so one book that we have read that's been really helpful is a book called Traction. It talks about using the entrepreneurial operating system and specifically KPIs in your business. I highly recommend it. And it allows you to make sure everyone on your team is paddling the boat in the same direction, because you don't have to worry about having these long check-in meetings where you're like, what are you working on? Tell me everything you've done this week. It doesn't matter because you can just go over the KPIs and each person can report their KPIs and say, all right, we had 300 text messages go out to leads this week. We had 400 engagements on social media. We had this many clicks on our newsletter for, on the marketing side, for example. You can talk about finance and accounting. If you have an account, you can say, here's the number of transactions that were categorized. These are the number of past due bills. These are the number, this is the revenue that came in. This is our gross monthly income, gross monthly expenses. And so that way they're reporting things that matter to you as the business owner without all the extra fluff that typically comes along with, your check-in meetings with staff.
Awesome. And then what did it look like as you started to bring on agents to build out the team and support Adrian further? Did these VAs also support those agents right away, right out of the gate? So, like, I imagine there was some kind of operational procedure that people got to plug right into. Can you kind of explain to us? Imagine I'm an agent coming onto your team and you're saying, here's what we've got in place. Can you talk us through what that looked like?
Yeah, so we are really big on leveraging technology, finance, systems, and people in our businesses. And so bringing on a new agent involves all of those things. So we use a project management system called Monday.com, and that allows us to have different boards for tracking all the responsibilities and tasks and projects and things like that. So when a new agent would come on, we would have a template board that has all the tasks that they're responsible for, plus another one that has all the tasks that the admin team, our virtual assistants, are responsible for. And that automatically would get created, deadlines would get set, and all the procedures are linked to every single task so everybody knows what they're supposed to do. So a new agent would get their account set up by one of the virtual assistants, they'd get that into their email, they'd log in, and they would immediately see this board of their responsibilities. They would get notifications, reminders, both on the app and their email and through the website of what they were supposed to do and when it was due. So it'd have links to like, hey, here's our share drive online that has our onboarding guide. Here's another link of the must read. So we are a heavy real estate investment based team. And so we want to bring agents on that are very familiar with real estate investing. So if they're not, they got to go do some education. Same thing with like setting up MLS access, getting the account set up so that the assistants can log in on their behalf and do things like set up MLS search portals for clients. So it's all integrated. Everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do, how long it's supposed to take, and it's really clear on what the responsibilities are.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, and people listening might think to themselves, I would love all this, but I'm still overwhelmed. I don't know where to begin. And that leads us to you guys developing WorkerGenix, which was a solution you created based off of your own struggles to find and retain good VAs. So talk us through what your service looks like with WorkerGenix and how somebody could enlist your help. Like, logistically speaking, how does that look?
Yeah, so we want to make sure our clients are staying in their top 20% of activities, those high value activities, and going and trying to find a VA is not a top 20% activity. That's not something that's like making you money or serving your clients. And so we're going to be the experts that help people do that. And then managing people in a different country and doing the international payments, understanding things like pay raises and Christmas bonuses and other holidays. That's a whole level of complexity that you as a US based entrepreneur don't need to worry about. And so we take care of all those things on the back end for a fixed monthly subscription. So you can have something that's easy to budget and plan for, make that investment in yourself, and then get a great, really high quality assistant you can hand things off to based on your specific needs. So maybe you already have some kind of team aspect set up. You got local staff, they're doing a great job. A lot of times we find those are the most successful people at delegating because they already know how to do it. And so we're going to bring in assistants to supplement the existing team and make your local staff even more efficient and have higher job satisfaction because they're not doing low-level grunt work anymore. So beyond that, we also provide all the systems that someone needs and technology that someone needs to work with someone virtually. So we provide a task management portal, again, based on Monday.com, the same thing that we use in all of our businesses. We also provide the technology like a shared drive. So it's easy to have a single secure place to exchange files and store that if someone doesn't already have it. And we also get virtual phone numbers set up with local area code. So the VA can make and receive calls and make and receive text messages on behalf of the client.
So you guys are sourcing and screening the applicants for the role and then presenting one qualified candidate, or do you present several that the client is able to choose from?
So our usual operation is that we find the very best and get them for our client so that our client doesn't have that stress of like, how do I even decide between these two people? There are some occasions where we'll have multiple very high qualified candidates come in, we'll onboard them, and we're like, hey, both of these would be great fits, and we can present that option to the client as well. They can talk to both if they want to do that. Part of that onboarding process is when we make a candidate identification, we put them through an internal vetting process that's extremely rigorous. We got to make sure that they're detail oriented, that they show up on time, all the kind of things that like you can't really tell from a normal interview, so that our clients don't have that like wasted time of being like, oh, well, they interviewed really well, but they can't show up to work on time. And so we do all the background check, we get all the references, we make sure they have the highest level criminal background check for their country and it's all certified so that people can trust working with these people.
And then are your clients primarily real estate investors and agents, or do you serve other industries as well?
So we do serve other industries. Definitely the bulk are in that kind of real estate investor and agent space. We have great success with professional service businesses. So people can outsource their customer service, someone that can do a combination of roles, which is really unique thing that we can find because we only hire people with college degrees, and oftentimes they'll have master's degrees and beyond. They have experience doing things like bookkeeping and social media management. So we can get like this hybrid role where they'll take care of all the bookkeeping and invoicing for a business and keep their social media and newsletters up to date.
I think that leads me to one of my next questions, which I was thinking about earlier, which is once your business is, your systems are set, your VAs are placed, your all systems go, the agent is feeling the freedom of having an incredible process in place that makes life easy and creates consistency in the customer experience. How many VAs do you typically see working for, let's just say, a one-person agent team versus by the time you guys sold the business and sold the entire team?
Yeah, so when we were at the selling point, I believe we had 4 full-time VAs working across a variety of roles. Most teams, when they're getting started, it's usually 1 or 2. I will say that going to that like higher level of 4, that typically comes after a couple of years of experience, seeing that success and working with VAs so you have those systems in place, and then you're just ready to scale because it's all set up.
And do you guys share some of the operational structure that you had in place when you were running your own real estate business so that people can simply see sort of the, let's just say, the checklist of responsibilities that one person can handle? Because again, I think one of the sticking points is that someone's listening and they don't know how to get from where I am to what we're painting a picture of, because it feels overwhelming to figure out, I don't even know what I would use this person for. Do you guys deliver sort of an example of how it worked for you guys?
Yeah, so one thing that we can share is we have a guide called Delegate or Die, and it has over 100 different tasks that we personally and our clients successfully outsource to our virtual assistants. People can get to that at workergenix.com/pursuing freedom. They can just fill out the form and we'll email that to them. It's really helpful because then you can just go through a checklist style like, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm doing this. Those are all things that can be outsourced. And when you find yourself, let's say someone wants to make like 100 grand a year of net profit, that means that they need to be spending 40 hours a week for 50 weeks a year doing $50 an hour activities. So every hour that they spend doing activities that a virtual assistant can do for anywhere from like $10 to $15 an hour, they are basically taking away their time of doing $50 an hour tasks, making it so they've got to work an extra week, work extra hours every week to be able to hit that revenue figure that they want to do in their business.
Awesome. And then what does it look like for, so you shared there's a free resource at workergenix.com/pursuing freedom. Is that right?
Correct.
So anybody listening can go download that free resource and see over 100 tasks that you can delegate out immediately. And then I assume from there, there's a contact form or some way they get in touch with you to explore the process of outsourcing the sourcing of VAs to you, or to learn more about the process. What's the best way to get a hold of you or find you, follow you, et cetera? Is it through the website or other ways
Yeah, if you
too?
just go to workergenix.com, there's buttons pretty much at every section of the page for scheduling that free discovery call. And we can just have a chat about what's going on in your business and find ways that we might be able to help find someone to outsource and make your business more profitable and your life more enjoyable.
Well, I love this so much. I mean, everything about it. The fact that number one, you became financially independent through your own real estate investing, that led to Adrian selling real estate successfully, that led to scaling, that led to a team, that led to a sale, that led to location independence and world travel with your 3 kids. All of it is so inspiring, and I'm sure leaving people curious to get in touch with you. So thank you so much, Harley, for taking the time all the way from Medellin to the United States here. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Aaron. It's been a pleasure.
And to all my friends listening out there, please consider reaching out to Harley and Adrian, because I do understand that it is scary to bridge the gap from hitting that ceiling of personal capacity to designing the future of your business that can allow you the time freedom that you crave and that you deserve. And the reason we all got into this was because we wanted freedom and flexibility. So if you've experienced a little bit of that roller coaster where the business starts coming in and all of a sudden your time, energy, and enthusiasm becomes suffocated, that is exactly the moment for you to acknowledge that your bottleneck is not your ability to nurture relationships and develop business. It will always be your time, energy, and enthusiasm. And the only way to break through that ceiling and to find a way to have a business that finances and fuels all the epic life adventures that you imagine for yourself is to outsource. So please get a hold of Harley if you don't already have systems in place and people to run those systems, because it sounds like they can be an incredible resource to your business. And wouldn't it be amazing for you to be free and footloose and cruising around wherever you want to be geographically in the world while having a thriving business to fund the adventure? I don't know, guys. I'm inspired. I think I'm going to be reaching out to these guys myself. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. I love you guys for listening and following. I appreciate your support. I also implore you, if you have not left a 5-star review somewhere where you are consuming this, please make sure to do so, because it really does help us continue to attract amazing guests like Harley and give you all the tools and resources you need to build a life you don't need a vacation from. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll see you next time.